viewers, and welcome to this vlog. It's actually called Raw Blog, and it is a vlog. So why do you call it Raw Blog, I hear you asking? Well, I call it Raw Blog because it's my vlog, and I can call it whatever I like to. Well, here I am, all decked out for the holiday season, and tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to complete A Ghost Story of Christmas, a Christmas carol written by Charles Dickens. And we're going to get through the last little bit tonight, and then we're going to have another whole week of lovely things to happen before Christmas. So let's get right to Christmas. I can hardly wait. I'm so excited. We were at the Cratchits, and the Cratchits were having Christmas dinner. And Mrs. Cratchit served the Cratchits and Bob Cratchit a goose. Oh, never was there such a goose, said Bob. He just didn't believe that anyone had ever cooked a goose such as this. Its tenderness and its flavor and its size and its cheapness as well. And it was all eked out and added to with applesauce and mashed potatoes. Oh, goodness. It was a wonderful dinner, and they all enjoyed it. And what happened after dinner? Oh, one of my favorites. Christmas pudding. Oh, dear, there was a great deal of steam. The pudding was out of the copper, which was in the backyard. I think it was the same copper bowl or tub that they did their laundry in. Anyways, it smelled like washing day, which leads me to believe it was the same tub they did their laundry in. It was like a cloth, and there was a cloth that made it smell like an eating house, like a pastry cook's next door. Oh, they were just trying to whitewash it and pretend it didn't smell like dirty laundry in a tub of hot water, right? Well, soon Mrs. Cratchit picked up the pudding and ran into the house, and there it was. Oh, she smiled so proudly with the pudding, and it was hard and it was firm, and she threw on a half-quarter of ignited brandy. Well, it was brandy first of all, and then she lit a match and ignited it. Oh, and they all thought it was so wonderful, and they just applauded, and they had such a good dinner. Now, they did bring up Mr. Scrooge, and Mrs. Cratchit did not want to do a toast to Mr. Scrooge, of course, but she says, "I will toast for you, Bob. I'll give him Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast." And that's exactly what she did. This is the scariest ghost of all. He didn't speak. He wore this huge black robe, and just a bony finger come out of the robe like this and pointed. He didn't really talk. He was quiet. He was a mime, I guess, like Marcel Marceau. So the phantom slowly approached Scrooge, and Scrooge bent down upon his knee, for in the very air through which the spirit moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery. Ooh, it's getting very scary now. Well, he was tall, and he was stately, but as I mentioned, there was a solid dread about him. Ooh, the spirit. Scrooge said to him, "Am I in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come?" And all that the apparition did was point. He didn't answer. He just pointed downward with his hand. Like he was going to type a letter with one finger. That kind of pointing. Oh, my goodness. But this was a scary ghost, and do not think for a moment that Mr. Scrooge was not a little bit scary and was shaking just a wee bit. Well, then he took and he showed him in this dark, dank building a presence of a man and 3 other people. Well, as it turns out, one of these people, well, all of them were trying to sell something of Scrooge's, but the one was not just only selling his bedclothes, but was selling the nightshirt that he wore. "Oh, he'll never be in need of that again." Oh, and they all laughed, and they were paid their money. Well, this smartened up Scrooge a bit. He just showed what people would do, what dastardly things they would do to Scrooge. But of course, he wasn't the nicest person in the world either, so he shouldn't have been too surprised. Well, they divvied up everything, and they made their money, and the spirit moved him onwards. And next, we're just looking for the page. And next, the spirit, keeping him company, stood amongst graves in a graveyard. The spirit stood pointing down to one particular grave. He advanced towards it, did Mr. Scrooge, and he was trembling just a little bit. He advanced towards it even closer. The phantom was exactly as he had been, which probably meant he had his little finger, sticking down to the grave. "Before I draw nearer to that stone to which you point," said Mr. Scrooge, "answer me one question. Are these the shadows of things that will be, or are they the shadows of things that may be?" Well, the ghost wasn't a good conversationalist, and all he did was point down at the grave, or at the stone on the grave. Well, Scrooge definitely was... Well, let's say if there had been a men's room close by, he would have made use of it pronto. Oh my goodness, it's getting very scary now. Well, Ebenezer Scrooge looked down onto that stone, and he could see his own name printed there, Ebenezer Scrooge. "Am I that man that lays upon the bed?" he cried as he fell to his knees. Well, all the ghost did again, the spirit just pointed down again. "Oh, spirit, no, 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 no. Spirit," he cried, "hear me, I am not the man that I was. I've changed." Well, we should certainly hope so, right? We should certainly hope that he changed. Now, stave 5 that Dickens wrote is called "The End of It." Well, we shall see about that. Scrooge woke up, and he couldn't... You know what it's like when you get up one morning and you think, did I dream that? Or did that really happen? And you have to think for a couple of minutes. Well, Scrooge was in the exact same frame of mind. And he ran to his window in his room, and he opened the window, and there's a little bit of snow laying on the windowsill. But it was a bright, sunny, crisp day. And he called down to a young boy. He said, "Hey, what is today, young man?" It was a boy dressed in fine Sunday clothes. The boy goes, "Hey?" Mr. Scrooge says, "Well, what is today, my fine fellow?" "Today," replied the boy, why, it's Christmas Day." "It's Christmas Day," said Scrooge to himself. "I haven't missed it." And he was so happy, he was jumping about and doing the heel and fling. And he said, "Oh, young man, the spirit said down at one night, the spirit," he was so happy, he wasn't making sense. He says to the boy, "Do you know the poulterers in the next street?" "Oh, yes, I do." "Oh, what an intelligent boy," he said. Very smart boy. He says, "Well, the turkey in the window, is it still there?" And the young boy says, "You mean the one that's as big as me?" "Oh, what a delightful, charming boy," said Mr. Scrooge. "Yes," he says. "Well," he says, "do I want you to go get it for me. I'll give you a shilling." "Wow, big spender. Hey, big spender. You come back sooner, in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown." Well, there you go. And sooner rather than later, the boy came back with the huge turkey. And he had the butcher was with him because, the turkey was as big as the boy and he just couldn't manage it. So the butcher had to break it. So what he asked is that it be sent to Bob Cratchit. And that's exactly what he did. Oh, and Scrooge was jumping about the window, and he even showered and shaved and put on clean underwear. Well, it was Christmas Day after all, Anyways, he had a lovely day. He decided to go to the nephew's after all, and he sat and he had turkey and he talked and they played games and all that, and Scrooge went home that night, Christmas Day night, and he was exhausted and he fell asleep. So the next morning he got up very early and he was jovial and dancing around again, and he went to the office much earlier because he knew that Bob Cratchit would be late. And he waited and he waited, and as soon as Bob walked in, probably about 20 minutes past 9, he put on his old Scrooge face again. And he said, "Oh, a little bit late. We were supposed to start at 9 o'clock. And Bob said, "Well, I'm very sorry, sir, but I am behind my time." And Scrooge says, "Yes, you are. I think you are." "Well, it's only once a year," said Mr. Cratchit. "It shan't be repeated, and I was making rather merry yesterday." Well, Scrooge says, I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm not going to stand for this. No, sir, I will not stand for it. I am therefore going to raise your salary, Bob Cratchit. Oh, Bob thought the guy was nuts. Well, why wouldn't he? He's never seen Mr. Scrooge act like this before. Mr. Scrooge says, a Merry Christmas, Bob. Yes, a merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I had ever given you in many a year. I'll raise your salary, as I said, and I will endeavor to assist you and your struggling family. Oh, dear. And he says we will discuss your affairs this very afternoon. Now, before you dot another I, cross another T, Bob, you put another few lumps of coal on your fire and stay warm. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, and he did infinitely more. And Tiny Tim, who, by the way, if you were worried, his little crutches and being part of that huge family, he did not die. You see, we all thought he did. We all thought he was going to, because they were very sad and whatnot. But, well, the spirit showed Scrooge, and it just didn't happen to be true. And there was Tiny Tim. He lived. And he was a second father to Tiny Tim. He became as good a friend, a good master, and as good a man as the good old city knew. Or maybe in the world even. Some people laughed to see the alterations in him, and Scrooge just laughed right back. He was so full of laughter. Well, his own heart was just boiling over with joy. And that was quite enough for Mr. Scrooge. Did I mention that Tiny Tim didn't pass away? I did, didn't I? I tried to bring you a new slant on the story. Now back to the last few lines here. Apparently Mr. Scrooge had no further intercourse with the spirits, but he lived upon the TAP, total abstinence principle, even afterwards. Yes, and it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, and if any man possessed the knowledge, it was Mr. Scrooge. Well, ladies and gentlemen, may that be said of us all, and all of us. And so is Tiny Tim, the one with the crutch, who did not die but lived. As Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone. That was a rather quick ending, wasn't it? Well, we went on for days and days, and I thought today, no, I'm just going to give the viewers the meat and potatoes that they want. And that's exactly what you got in this vlog, the meat and potatoes. And you know, if I'm lucky, I might even stop speaking with this terrible English accent, well, in the next few hours. Who knows? Mr. Scrooge knows. So there you have it, A Christmas Carol. And there's the ghost wearing the green with the, this. We talked about that, didn't we? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me for this reading of A Christmas Carol. It's probably a bit of a different reading than maybe what you've heard before, but it doesn't matter. It's yours and it's mine. And we read it and enjoyed it together. Take care of yourselves. Have a lovely holiday season. We're going to talk to you in the next few days again with more surprises right here on this very Rob blog. So take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye!